Imagine your morning cup of coffee quietly loading your body with toxins. In 48 states, recalls have already swept shelves, exposing mold, heavy metals, and bacteria that sent unsuspecting drinkers straight to hospital beds. Today, we're exposing 10 coffee brands you should avoid at all costs. Names so familiar you might have one sitting in your kitchen right now. And the first one, it's a chain so big you've probably walked past it this week. Quick challenge before we dive in. If you had to guess, which coffee brand do you think tops the recall list? Drop your answer in the comments and see if you're right, because the truth is, the most dangerous cup might not come from a supermarket shelf at all. It could be handed to you at the world's most recognizable fast food counter. Number 1. McDonald's McCafe. For many people, McDonald's McCafe feels like the last bargain in America. Seniors on fixed incomes and night shift workers line up at sunrise, convinced that for just over $1, they're buying stability in a paper cup. But behind the golden arches, the reality is darker. That value coffee isn't just beans and water. It's a cocktail of cheap sourcing, pesticide residues, and dirty machines. Start with the beans. McDonald's promises 100% Arabica, but watchdogs found suppliers using ammonia washing to freshen up moldy stock. Think of it as makeup for rotten beans. Good for profits, bad for your body. In 2023, independent testing revealed chlorpyrifos, a pesticide banned in Europe for its link to memory loss, clinging to McDonald's beans. Legal in the US? Yes. Safe for older drinkers already vulnerable to cognitive decline? Absolutely not. Even if the beans were clean, the brewing units aren't. In 2024, employees leaked photos of machines coated with brown slime and mineral crust. Over 200 stores across 12 states were named in a class action for serving bacteria-laced coffee. For seniors with fragile immunity, that's not just gross, it's dangerous. Then there's the water. Many franchises connect brewers directly to old municipal pipes without filtration. In towns with aging infrastructure, those pipes still carry lead. A consumer test in Flint, Michigan, found McCafe coffee with lead levels 5 times higher than Starbucks nearby. Lead doesn't just dull flavor, it erodes memory and long-term health. And the future looks worse. A 2025 supply deal with low-cost brokers promises cheaper beans from regions notorious for pesticide overuse. More shortcuts mean more risks. Will regulators step in before the next recall, or will customers keep paying the price in hospital visits? Here's the takeaway. You don't have to gamble on a dollar cup. Brands like Kicking Horse or Better Buzz test their beans, and even a home brewer with filtered water offers cleaner, safer coffee. McDonald's may sell speed and savings, but the real cost could be your health. Number 2. Folgers. Folgers has been a kitchen staple for generations. The bright red tub on the supermarket shelf feels like security. Cheap, familiar, and always there when money is tight. For retirees and working families, scooping those grounds into a filter is almost ritual. But what looks like comfort on the outside hides a chemical cocktail inside. Independent reviews have repeatedly ranked Folgers among the worst offenders for contaminants. In 2021, the Clean Label Project tested 147 coffees. Folgers showed measurable levels of lead and cadmium, 2 heavy metals linked to brittle bones, kidney decline, and memory loss. A single cup of their classic roast carried cadmium near California's daily safety threshold. Picture that. What millions call their daily pick-me-up may also be a daily dose of slow erosion, and it doesn't stop at metals. Mycotoxin screenings in 2022 flagged Folgers products for ochratoxin A, a fungal poison tied to cancer and neurological damage. These toxins flourish in bulk storage silos, often in hot, humid climates where cheap beans are warehoused before shipping. In Europe, shipments at those levels would be destroyed. In the United States, they're ground, packaged, and sold for $7.99 with a cheery jingle about mornings being brighter. Even decaf carries a cruel twist. Folgers relies on methylene chloride, a solvent flagged as a potential carcinogen by the EPA to strip caffeine. Residues have been detected in the final product. So the retiree switching to decaf to protect a weak heart may actually be trading one risk for another. Isn't that like replacing aspirin with arsenic? The irony is brutal. The very demographic Folgers targets, older Americans on limited budgets, are the ones least able to process these toxins or pay the medical bills that follow. Smiling commercials show grandparents pouring mugs for their grandchildren, but lab results suggest something closer to betrayal than family tradition. And with climate pressures raising heavy metal absorption in soils worldwide, the problem is only intensifying. Will Folgers' next harvest brew even higher doses of cadmium and ochratoxin into America's kitchens? Or will consumers finally connect the dots between nostalgia in a red tub and the silent damage dripping into their bodies every morning? Number 3. Death Wish Coffee. News broke in 2017 that stunned the coffee world. The FDA issued a recall on Death Wish Nitro Cold Brew. Why? Because the cans weren't safe. Tests revealed conditions where Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria that produces botulism, could flourish. This isn't a minor contaminant. We're talking about a toxin so lethal it's been weaponized in warfare, capable of paralyzing lungs within hours. And yet thousands of cans had already hit store shelves. Industry insiders called it a disaster waiting to happen. The sterilization step that prevents this exact outcome skipped. It wasn't an accident, it was cost-cutting. In the words of one food safety consultant at the time, "This isn't edgy branding. This is negligence." But botulism wasn't the only danger. Death Wish built its reputation on caffeine's shock value, the world's strongest coffee. A single serving can blast past 470 milligrams. That's not just strong, that's 5 cups of regular coffee in one hit. Emergency departments have logged cases of rapid heartbeat, dizziness, even pacemaker interference. In Florida, a retiree collapsed at a community hall after drinking a can. Doctors pointed directly at caffeine overload. So who is most at risk? Ironically, the loyal base, night shift drivers, exhausted workers, and older adults desperate to keep going. They aren't thrill seekers. They're people pushing their bodies past the limit, and Death Wish sells them fuel that can push too far. The brand insists it's tightened safety checks since the recall. But here's the question hanging in the air. As long as its identity is tied to being the strongest, where's the line? At what point does marketing strength become medical weakness? That's not irony. It's the built-in risk of the entire business model. Number 4, Café Bustelo. For millions of Latino households, Café Bustelo is more than coffee. It's tradition sealed in a yellow can, a taste of abuela's kitchen, the smell drifting through small apartments on Sunday morning. Walk into bodegas from New York to Miami, and the red logo stares back at you like an old friend. For immigrant families who built new lives in America, Bustelo became a cultural anchor, familiar, affordable, and proudly tied to heritage. That emotional bond is powerful, but loyalty doesn't sterilize beans. And nostalgia doesn't erase toxic lab results. Independent testing has found troubling levels of pesticides and heavy metals in Bustelo products, especially those sourced from large-scale plantations in South America. Lead, cadmium, and pesticide residues that would trigger seizures at European customs flow freely into the U.S. supply chain. Most drinkers have no idea. The brand's old-world marketing suggests authenticity and quality, while in reality, many shipments are bulk blends from the cheapest available sources. The gap between image and content is wide enough to swallow trust. The tragedy is that communities who embraced Bustelo for comfort are often the ones most exposed to harm. Seniors in Latino neighborhoods brew it daily because it's inexpensive and feels like home. Yet lead accumulation doesn't care about sentiment. Cadmium in the bloodstream doesn't pause out of respect for tradition. What looks like cultural pride in the kitchen may, quietly, be undermining health in ways too slow to notice until it's too late. Bustelo thrives because because it speaks to identity, and identity is hard to question. To doubt the coffee is, in a sense, to question the rituals of family itself. That's what makes this brand's risks cut so deeply. It isn't just about contaminants, it's about betrayal of trust woven into the fabric of culture. So, the question isn't only scientific, it's personal. How many families will keep filling their kitchens with the smell of Bustelo, believing they're keeping heritage alive, when in reality, they may be brewing a silent hazard for the very elders who carried that heritage across borders? Number 5, Starbucks. Starbucks sells more than coffee. It sells the illusion of safety, an affordable luxury in a paper cup, a green siren logo that whispers, "You belong here." For countless Americans, especially older customers juggling pills, pensions, and rising prices, that consistency feels priceless. But consistency can also disguise betrayal. Back in California, courts revealed Starbucks coffee contained acrylamide at levels up to 4 times higher than state safety guidelines. Acrylamide is no harmless byproduct. It's tied to cancers and nerve disorders. Yet warnings never appeared on cups. Instead, the company leaned on legal loopholes, keeping customers in the dark while profits soared. That isn't hospitality, that's concealment. The marketing only deepens the contrast. Starbucks ads show lush farms and smiling growers. Reports from Brazil and Guatemala tell a different story. Child labor, pesticide exposure, and corporate email acknowledging the risk. Instead of pulling beans, leadership let the warnings sit like burnt espresso at the bottom of a pot. What does ethical sourcing mean if it looks away from exploitation? Even innovation has turned sour. The much-hyped olive oil-infused line promised heart-friendly benefits. Within 6 months, over 370 incident reports linked it to nausea, diarrhea, and stomach cramp. For baristas, it was a running joke. For older customers with fragile health, it meant ER visits. And just like that, the product quietly vanished from menus as though burying evidence beneath the froth. Sweeteners and sugar-free syrups offer no refuge. Recent toxicology reviews flagged sucralose for disrupting insulin sensitivity and gut bacteria. Lab tests showed Starbucks matcha powder padded with starch and dyes. Even almond milk lattes raised concern. Consumer reports noted oxalate levels high enough to aggravate kidney issues. Layer upon layer, each sip becomes a gamble dressed as comfort. Yet millions keep lining up, murmuring the quiet lie, just one more won't hurt. That's the cruelest trick of all. Starbucks doesn't only sell coffee, it sells trust. And every hidden hazard that slips into those cups chips away at the very safety the brand pretends to guarantee. Number 6, Maxwell House. Once upon a time, Maxwell House wasn't just coffee. It was America's morning soundtrack. Ads promised a cup good to the last drop, and for decades, families believed it. Soldiers carried it to war, parents brewed it before work, and retirees clung to it like a thread of routine. Few brands became so woven into the national identity. But nostalgia ages badly when profits come first. Today's Maxwell House is not the same coffee grandparents poured in the 1950s. Over decades, ownership shifted, bean quality declined, and cost-cutting took over. What used to be a proud roast is now a patchwork of cheap import, heavily processed to mask defects, chemical residues, and mycotoxins. Words that never appeared in those cheerful jingles now linger in lab tests of the modern product. Independent screenings have detected ochratoxin A, a mold-based toxin tied to kidney and liver problems, in multiple Maxwell House blends. Heavy metals like lead and cadmium have also shown up. These aren't just abstract numbers. For older drinkers already dealing with fragile bones or memory decline, every sip may deepen the struggle. A brand once built on comfort now whispers risk into daily ritual. And the irony cuts sharper still in their decaf. Like Folgers, Maxwell House has relied on methylene chloride, a solvent flagged as a potential carcinogen, for its caffeine removal process. So the customer who switched to decaf to protect a weak heart may unknowingly swallow something worse. Marketing hasn't kept up with reality. While glossy packaging insists the tradition lives on, the product inside bears little resemblance to its path. The story is familiar. Heritage sold, quality sacrificed, trust eroded. Maxwell House isn't America's coffee anymore. It's America's cautionary tale. The bigger question is what happens when heritage brands refuse to evolve? Will Maxwell House adapt, cleaning up sourcing and testing, or will it keep riding on nostalgia until lawsuits and medical bills expose the truth? One thing is certain, the slogan no longer fits, 'cause good to the last drop only means something when what's in the cup is worth drinking. Number 7. Black Rifle Coffee. Few brands have mastered the art of camouflage like Black Rifle Coffee. Wrapped in flags, rifles, and slogans about freedom, it positioned itself as more than a beverage. Buying a bag was framed as a statement of loyalty, support for veterans, support for country, support for values. But what happens when the camouflage peels away? What's left in the cup isn't patriotism. It's pesticides, shortcuts, and deception. In 2023, Global Clean Foods tested beans linked to Black Rifle's bulk lines and found residues of paraquat and glyphosate. Paraquat has been tied to Parkinson's disease, glyphosate to cancer lawsuits costing billions worldwide. In Europe, beans with these chemicals would be rejected outright. In the US, they were roasted, branded with military iconography, and sold as if they carried integrity. Customers didn't just swallow coffee, they swallowed trust. And then came the politics. Investigations by ProPublica uncovered donations routed through groups tied to extremist causes. Internal memos suggested the backlash wasn't a mistake, but part of the strategy. Outrage amplified the brand. For older Americans who believed their dollars supported veterans, finding out they might instead be fueling division felt like betrayal at the deepest level. The truth cuts further. A Texas class action in 2024 accused Black Rifle of labeling blends as single origin, while internal records showed beans from multiple countries, including farms flagged for forced migrant labor. For a company that sells honor, honesty, and service, this wasn't a crack in the armor. It was exposure of the hollow inside. Even health isn't spared. Surveys among veterans reported palpitations, insomnia, and severe acid reflux after drinking high caffeine blends like Silencer Smooth. ER doctors documented cases of tachycardia, with Black Rifle cited directly. The demographic the brand claims to represent, older veterans, are the ones most endangered by the very product they're told is theirs. So what's left when the flags and slogans fade? A company that uses patriotism as a marketing weapon while selling beans laced with chemicals that weaken the very bodies it claims to honor. Loyalty should never be weaponized. But with Black Rifle, every bag is proof that even trust can be roasted and sold. Keurig. The promise of Keurig was irresistible. One button, one pod, instant coffee without mess. No grinding, no filters, no cleanup. It felt like progress in a plastic capsule. But convenience always has a price. And with K-Cups, that price has been measured in both personal health and global waste. Lab tests have shown that the thin plastic shells of K-Cups can leach microplastics into hot water. Heat accelerates the breakdown, meaning every steaming mug may carry invisible fragments into the body. Scientists still debate the long-term consequences of microplastic ingestion, but early findings link them to hormonal disruption and inflammation. For seniors or anyone with weakened systems, those particles aren't just harmless dust. They're uninvited passengers in the bloodstream. Storage adds another hidden risk. Pods left in warm, humid kitchens have been found growing mold inside the sealed capsule. Because they aren't transparent, consumers rarely notice. Brewed mold doesn't always taste strange, but it can trigger allergies, headaches, or worse. The illusion of sealed freshness hides a reality closer to stale contamination. And then there's the mountain of waste. Billions of pods pile into landfills every year, most unrecyclable despite marketing claims. John Sylvan, one of Keurig's own inventors, later admitted he regretted creating the product at all, calling the waste problem a disaster. Each morning's convenience scales up to an environmental crisis. Keurig's success reveals something about us. The craving for speed often blinds us to cost. A minute saved at breakfast can translate to decades of plastic in oceans or toxins in bodies. That's not efficiency, it's deferred damage. So when the button lights up green and the pod hisses into action, it's worth asking, is this really innovation or just another shortcut that makes life easier in the moment while making it harder in the long run? Number 9. Peet's Coffee. Peet's built its reputation as the thinking person's coffee. Founded in Berkeley, embraced by early adopters of the gourmet coffee wave, it promised sophistication in every dark, carefully crafted roast. For many customers, especially in cities, buying Peet's wasn't just about caffeine, it was about identity, about being the kind of person who chooses quality over commodity. But the myth of premium purity doesn't survive the microscope. Independent studies in 2023 detected elevated acrylamide levels in several Peet's blends. This chemical, formed during roasting, has been tied to cancer and nerve damage when present in excess. California health regulators have long flagged acrylamide as a risk, but Peet's customers rarely hear that warning. Marketing leans into European cafe culture, not industrial byproducts hiding in the beans. The sourcing story isn't much cleaner. While Peet's has highlighted single-origin offerings and responsible partnerships, Watchdogs uncovered supply chains mixing beans from plantations already criticized for pesticide overuse. A cup sold as refined and conscientious may, in reality, carry residues little different from bulk supermarket coffee. Paying extra doesn't change the chemistry swirling in the mug. Even freshness, a pillar of Peet's branding, has faced challenges. Shelf life tests have shown oxidation setting in quickly, with oils going rancid faster than labels suggest. Customers who believe they're drinking a bold, carefully roasted masterpiece may in fact be sipping stale bitterness padded by marketing gloss. The irony is sharp. Consumers pay a premium for peace of mind, for the illusion that sophistication equals safety. Yet the dangers of acrylamide, pesticides, and staleness don't discriminate between budget and boutique. The difference lies only in the story being told. Peet's asks customers to see themselves reflected in the cup, discerning, elevated, refined. But what if the reflection is just branding smoke, while the liquid beneath carries the same risks that plague the cheapest blends? In chasing an identity, drinkers may be buying into a myth that masks the oldest truth of all. Price doesn't guarantee purity. Number 10. Dunkin'. Few brands feel as woven into American mornings as Dunkin'. The orange and pink sign glows before dawn, promising a hot cup for under $2. For retirees on fixed incomes, for commuters rushing to work, for grandparents treating themselves on the way to see family, that paper cup feels like comfort in liquid form. It's routine, it's affordable, it's dependable, or at least that's the illusion. Behind the counter, reality has been less comforting. Food integrity. Watch flagged over 160 Dunkin' stores across 13 states for storing pre-brewed coffee in damp closets, sometimes for weeks. Tests revealed toxin A, a mold toxin tied to kidney damage and memory decline. Seniors already vulnerable to health struggles were unknowingly drinking a daily dose of poison labeled as "America runs on Dunkin'." And the problems didn't end with mold. A whistleblower video from Queens showed workers reusing filters up to 8 times, mixing stale coffee into fresh batches. Corporate called it an isolated incident. Yet leaked audits showed more than 20 stores failing hygiene checks in the same quarter. In Florida, inspectors even found cockroach droppings by the grinders. If this were a home kitchen, the whole operation would have been shut down. But billion-dollar chains rarely face the same consequences. The water tells another story. Consumer testing of Dunkin' brewers in several cities uncovered lead levels above 5 parts per billion, higher than what regulators consider safe for children. Lead is a neurotoxin. It doesn't just affect taste, it affects memory, blood pressure, long-term brain health. Seniors, the very group most loyal to the brand, may be sipping away their clarity 1 cup at a time, and yet the lines never stop forming. Why? Because at 5 in the morning, choices are scarce. Price feels more urgent than purity. The brand knows it. Customers know it. That's the trap. Comfort masks contamination. Familiarity excuses filth, and routine hides risk. Dunkin' doesn't just sell coffee. It sells the illusion that cheap and warm is good enough. But illusions don't protect kidneys or memories or lives. 10 brands, 10 warnings. Proof that even comfort can hide danger. From mold to metals, what we drink matters more than we think. Stay alert, choose safer brews, and protect the rituals that fuel your day. For more consumer safety tips and hidden truth breakdowns, hit subscribe. You won't want to miss what's coming next.